Caption. We prepare the Habermus, which is what she recommends for breakfast. So in the meantime, we start. If you want to serve yourself, is the last trail. It has what she called a Habermus, and it's made with the spelt, cinnamon, nutmeg, and apples and honey. But that is what she recommends for breakfast. So in the meantime, you can serve yourself, and then we start with the presentation. Okay?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Maria. Thank you, Yacine, as well, for offering to host this wonderful workshop for us today. I look forward to hearing about it. So maybe before we kick off, I'll just say a few words about the Catholic Land Movement, what this group is, and where this event fits in, since we have many new faces here today, which is wonderful to see. So, for those who I have not met yet, my name is Faisal. I might have emailed with you before, or not. I live here in Kitchener and lead this Kitchener-based chapter of the Catholic Land Movement. I work in a corporate job, but I'm on paternity leave because we've been blessed with a newborn about a month ago. And my lovely wife is right there with our son. 2 boys. I don't know where the second one is. Someone's pregnant.
She has it.
So I hope to meet everyone here. For those of you who are just starting to get to know the Catholic Land Movement, I'll give a few words about the mission of the Catholic Land Movement and what chapter activity looks like. So the Catholic Land Movement has a simple mission statement. The Catholic Land Movement exists to facilitate the rural resettlement of Catholics onto productive property they own. Now, there's elements to unpack there. The Catholic Land Movement started 100 years ago in Great Britain. Shortly after the Industrial Revolution, there was a group of Catholics who were seeing how society was changing in so many ways. They were reflecting on the Church's response to the Industrial Revolution as well. There was a pivotal encyclical in 1899 from Pope Leo XIII called Rerum that talked about the Church's response to all the changes that were happening. The Church said that we have a natural right to private property, we have a natural right to association, we have a natural right to dignified work, and there were all these sorts of things that the Church was saying that led people to reflect what kind of society would these principles look like and embody. And so there was a group of Catholics who thought that there's a lot of good in a lifestyle centered on the family and local community and being able to produce as many of our basic needs as possible from home. Because we believe that strengthens the family, therefore that strengthens the faith and it strengthens the whole church. And so that was the Catholic Land Movement 100 years ago. There was a pause because of World War II for several reasons, and it revived about 5 years ago in the wake of everything happening with COVID in the United States. And over the past 5 years, God has blessed the movement with many people. The way we organize is into chapters. A Catholic Land Movement chapter is the place where the mission comes to life. And the contemporary expression of the movement breaks down into 4 mission pillars. So the first mission pillar is resettlement. So we help bring Catholics together who are interested in a rural lifestyle or homesteading to some extent, coming closer into contact with nature in whatever way we can, and helping each other to do so. The second pillar is education. So it's one thing to bring them into a homestead, it's another thing to teach him how to use a homestead. Over the last century or two, many skills have been lost that used to be done within a family context. Families used to be the primary place where food was grown, where animals were raised, where fixes were done on the home, and we've lost many of those skills. And so the Catholic Land Movement says, rather than learning from YouTube or a pro who can give you a workshop for $2,000, we can have Maria Bernal come and share exactly what she knows within our local community so that we can teach each other these skills again. So it's Catholic neighbors helping neighbors to learn the skills that were known for centuries of families before. So that's education. The third mission pillar is fellowship. we not only are here to help each other move onto productive property and learn the skills of how to use it well, but we're also trying to create fellowship with each other so that we can help each other, support each other practically and spiritually. Many of us come from wonderful parishes where I'm sure we have little pockets of amazing Catholic community within our reach, but the Catholic Land Movement sees also that real community is especially strengthened by practical support. So we're trying to create these relational bonds within each other, within our Kitchener chapter, within our Hamilton diocese, which is really where the scope of this chapter is at the moment. But as much as possible, we're trying to create local relational bonds that also have practical connections. Because if I go and help a neighbor with a move, or I go and help a neighbor put up a fence, or if I go and help a neighbor butcher their pig, then that can be an experience that brings us closer together as well. And finally, the fourth pillar is the glorification of God. So there have been many back to the land type movements over the last century. There are many people interested in homesteading. There are many people who see the current social order and want something different, especially in the wake of COVID. Many of us may have felt that. But without a Catholic vision or motivation for it, then it doesn't make us any different than any worldly effort to get back to the land. Because we as Catholics see that it's not earthly goods that we ultimately pursue, but we pursue earthly goods so that they can orient us towards a true good, which is God. And so we come to events, we pray Mass, we pray the Rosary. We direct everything that we do here to God. That's an overview of the Catholic Land Movement, its history, and its 4 mission pillars, the chapters where we live them. I'm so grateful that we are here and many of you came to this event. Please talk to me more if this is your first event. We have a stand at the back with a little registration sheet, a couple of books related to the Catholic Land Movement's intellectual principles that you're welcome to buy. And I would love to speak with you personally to get to know your story, what brings you here, and how this chapter can be most fruitful for you. Now with that, super excited to hear from Maria and Issy Brunel. They're local chapter members who live here in Kitchener, and they have both medical expertise and a love for the Catholic faith. And so we're super excited to hear from them about St. Hildegard, her medicinal approach, her spiritual wisdom, and what that means for how we can bring healthcare more into a home in a natural and accessible way for most families. So, round of applause for Maria and Issy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So let us start with a prayer. This is a prayer that she wrote. So in the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit, you can read with me aloud. O great Father, we are in great need. Now, therefore, we implore you, through your word, by which you have filled us with those things we need. Now it may please your Father for the benefits you to consider us with your help, so that we might not fail unless your name might back in us, and through your name, thine to help us. O eternal Lord, it is pleasing to you to burn in that same fire of love, like that from which our bodies are born, and from which you begotten your Son, in the first dawn, before all creation. So consider this need which fall upon us, and relieve us from the sake of your Son, and lead us into joyous prosperity. Amen. So just to give you a little bit of background, my husband was a dentist in Colombia. I was a doctor in Colombia. We moved to Canada, and our life kind of flipped really a lot. So we started doing different things. I tried to get my medical license here in Canada. We tried for 5 years. I'm a general practitioner back home, so I needed to go back to university. And things get more complicated over the years. And then at that point, we had already 2 girls. And we took the decision personally to stop that process and focus in the family. Also for my ethical background, I don't support abortion, I don't support euthanasia, and it's kind of implied when you are a doctor in Canada, you need to agree with those kind of practices. But before even we got married, a German priest gave me a USB with Hildegard books, and I kind of ignored for 14 years. And I started researching different things in medicine, especially related with the gut and the microbiota. And more I research outside, St. Hildegard keep on coming. And last December, she came really quickly. We went to visit Colombia, we went to visit a priest, and right after he saw me, he didn't have a clue. He said, "You're a doctor." "Yes." "Why don't you have study Hildegard?" And it shocked me. And my husband keep on saying, "I told you, I told you, I told you." On May this year, so we had the idea of starting the business. Our business name is Salintus Health. We had the idea, but it was in the back burner. He injured his Achilles tendon on May, the 1st of May of this year. And it was kind of St. Joseph saying, "When you are going to start?" So we start. Fast track, we're starting. Right now I'm studying for becoming a holistic nutritionist. I don't have the credential yet, but I have the knowledge. But this is how we start. Salintus, salus in Latin means health. Intus means intro, so we want to help people to heal inside out. And our slogan is regenerates lives, transform futures, because if you change your life, then you can heritage that knowledge to your family. So the purpose of today is to answer questions about Hildegard. She is a saint from the 12th century, or she was a saint from the 12th century, but she knew so much. It's amazing how much. Just to give you a little bit of disclosure, everything that I'm going to share, it had been from what I have researched about in the medical field. All the natural remedies, obviously, there is not tons of studies being made, but I found some. But obviously, we need more bigger size of studies. But right now, pharmaceutical companies, I don't think they would like to study a herb, right? But remember, like for example, aspirin, it came from a plant. So there is a lot of things that we have forget in this industrial process. But what I'm going to present to you is what I have found so far, because I'm sure there is more. And obviously, this is not for you to change what your medical doctor have mentioned. This is just for you to kind of think about it. In case you have more questions, you can let me know at the end. Because I have a lot of information, we compile it in an ebook that we are now selling. In the ebook, you can find whatever I'm going to explain today, but it doesn't have the medical information. And the reason for that is I don't want trouble. We are just starting. We need to go slow. But obviously, today you have the benefit that you will get all the medical background that I have found. So who she was and why her medicine is still relevant to us. So she born in the 12th century. Imagine how far she born. She was those kind of persons that didn't know how to read or how to write. So whatever she received, it was given by God by visions. So she started having visions when she was 5 years old. She was the 10th kid in the family, so the parents decided to offer her as a donation to God, and she started living in a monastery. And she had all these visions, and when she was 18 years old, she started having visions about how to cure people with plants, remedies, and stones. So in 2000, around 2000, John Paul II started talking about her. Once Pope Benedict started being a pope, he kind of continued the process. He beatified him, and in 2012, he declared her doctor of the church. So she's one of the 4 ladies that are doctors in the church, not only because of her medical background, but her theological background. John Paul II used to say that she was light of her people and of her time. And remember, in our Catholic Church, there is no present, there is no past or future. Everything is continuous. And more I study this medicine, I think she's the saint of this century because we need her so much. So the first question is how everything of her knowledge came by visions. It sounds a little bit odd if we can tell, but as any kind of saint in the church, when they receive visions, she had a lot of discernment. So this is a quote from Pope Benedict XVI. He has 2 letters about her. I recommend you to try to read it. And he was saying this phrase, but he saw her purity and how whatever she was talking, it was aligned with the church. That is why he declared her doctor of the church. And in regards to her vision, she started talking with the nun that was kind of the abbess in her monastery, and she was the first to know all about her visions. And then she started to dictate that to monk Volmer. And she didn't write, so he wrote for her. And then they didn't stop there. So she even went to Bernadette of Clairvaux. I don't know if you know, but he is a really profound saint in our church. And he was the one who actually went to the Pope Eugene III, mentioned that to him, and he said, okay, she has the approval to start writing. She wrote 8 books in total, really deep books, some about medicine, but especially Civias is the first book, and she talked about the merits of life, virtues and vices. And we can see how it was so important. Obviously, the words came. A lot of her information was kind of broken because it was in manuscript. But I'm going to explain how those information came back to us. Again, Pope Benedict, he saw the capacity of these women because she was not only a doctor, she's considered the master of botanic. She was an artist, she was a musician, so she was kind of the whole package. Now, how was the history of her writings? So she started in the 12th century. Only 1533 is when we have the first printed edition. And on the 1855 is when Jacques-Paul Mingue found something called Civias. When he saw the manuscript, he saw the word Civias, which is merits of life, he knew it was on Hildegard. And then only in 1998, actually here in Toronto, Priscilla Troop published the first version in English about Physica, which is the book that talks about all the plants, all the remedies, and so on. And we have the first translation in 2009. Okay, so you can see how far is from the time that she was born. However, this is when we start needing her the most. Medicine have changed a lot after the 20th century. So I think God keep her for us. That is what I feel. If we go a little bit more deep into the manuscript, so she was the author, even though she didn't write it, she was vocalizing everything. And the first edition came, as I mentioned, 1533. Then the first edition in Latin, because all her books was written in Latin. So on top of that, we needed to translate Latin to our language. But I found surprising that the person who actually translated to English was a Canadian lady. And she was studying the benefits of the natural remedies in the University of Toronto. So we can see that a lot had changed. And I personally bought this book, and it's fascinating. And then the 2 Spanish who completed the translation were actually 2 militaries in the Second World War. Because remember, during the war, people see the destruction of humanity. And they saw how bad things were, so they tried to save. And in the following slides, I will explain also about another military who tried to help in a sense. So they were so passionate about seeing how we can help differently that they decided to translate it in Spain. St. Hildegard is well known in Europe, especially in Spain. I myself educated in St. Hildegard in a school in Spain. They had many books, and what happened is after they have this last version in 2009. This guy, Dr. Herza, he also was a doctor during the, sorry, interruption, babies, during the Second World War, and he worked with Dr. Stallo. And they too decided to make Hildegard well known. There is a lot of controversy with Dr. Stallo because he's not Catholic. Dr. Kessler was Catholic. he died, and the Dr. Stello tried to continue the process, but with his vision without having the faith. And you know, when you don't have the faith, things kind of get biased. And then after that, we have another translation, and it's only up to 2012, when she was declared Doctor of the Church. Okay. Now, you're going to go with Daddy? Yes. Another quote about him saying, like, once he saw Sevius, he knew it was a manuscript. I divided this in 3 sections: body, mind, and soul. Because for St. Hildegard, there was a tripartite in the health. You have your body, you have your mind, you have your soul. So everything needs to be in balance. Even when I was in med school, what fascinated me about the human body is how everything goes to balance. Even a diabetic person tries to balance the level of sugar. So the body is always trying to get that equilibrium. And she called something Viriditas, which is the green force of life. And it was kind of the green force given by God. And she was saying we need to aim to have a good level of Viriditas so that we could be happy. I personally start reading about this, and I have a metaphor that I'm sure you will be able to use it. If you have a nice vessel, that is how you say it, at home, you will protect it, right? You will not throw it. You will clean it with care. That is our body. It's kind of the container, okay? The flowers is your mind, whatever you are thinking. And if you have a bouquet of flowers and one of them is dying, you will not let that there because it will damage the rest, so you will take it out. So there are thoughts that we need to take out. And the soul is the water, that invisible source that we don't see, but is there and is actually keeping the flowers alive. So if you think in this, what I am going to explain is how you can start using Hildegard medicine to care for your body, to care for your mind, and to care for your soul. But the first thought that I want you to think is how well I'm treating all of this. Okay, I'm being so careful with this as anything pressures in my home, or I just give it for granted. Again, going back to Viriditas. Everything around us has Viriditas. It's the green force that God gives to us. So that concept, I try to find what the church assume or think about this. And she said, I'm going to read this. The divine force, the moist and the green vitality that God breathes into our creation. If you went to Mass or if you listened to the lecture, the gospel of yesterday, it was Ezekiel, when the bones were there, the flesh was there, but there was not the breath of life. So that is Viriditas. And when we don't have Viriditas, we have what she called ariditas, so the lack of it. And in the church, what I found is in the catechism, they mention shares in the dignity of the image of God and is destined to be temple of the Spirit. And that soul and body is so deeply united with the form of a single nature. So even though in the Catholic Church they are not mentioning Viriditas, it's implied that we are temple of God, that creation is the creation of God. So Hildegard Viriditas is that living vitality, and we saw it in creation. So whenever you are feeling sad, the best thing that you can do is go and walk in nature. That is the best thing you can do. Be silent, listen to the birds. You have so much beautiful lakes here in Canada. Go and visit a lake. But what we do is we're stuck with the screen. We saw a movie. We don't go outside. We go to the mall, which is dark and has all this white light. So we need to change. We need to go back to nature. Again, going back to Pope Benedict, I recommend you to read these 2 letters. He saw that, like he say, there is the connection between man and creation. And for him, Hildegard kind of reminds that connection. Now, during the presentation, we're going to talk about the mind. We're talking about the soul, the mind, the body, and the stones. I know, stones is kind of odd, but she healed with the stones. What happened is at anything important or anything that have concept like a powerful concept, the evil tried to take it out. So we need to be careful with this, but it's really important for me to mention to you. So the first, the soul. There is a holistic point of view in medicine. I had the grace to study in one of the universities in Colombia that have something called biopsychological model. Not all of the faculties have that, so I'm going to explain that to you. But first of all, again, Pope Benedict, what he said, because for Hildegard, in our spine, we have 33 vertebrae. And she saw that there are pairs of vices and virtues. And depending if you are acting towards the virtue, you will have wellness. If you are acting towards the vice, you will have sickness. And she was saying that there are 35, sorry. We actually have 33. But what happens is when you are in the womb, you have 35. But then those fusion to become the coccyx. So she was right. And Pope Benedict was saying that path where we are trying to get to the virtue is actually the support of the church. And the person who also introduced me to St. Hildegard is a psychologist from Colombia, and she now have all the products from St. Hildegard. She had been studying St. Hildegard for almost 10 years. She even went to Germany to study this. And this is a quote from her. And she was saying, we kind of forget that we are spiritual persons, and we need to work in the virtue. Okay? So how the state of soul will reflect in our body. This is one of the paintings that she did. And soon I will have a workshop just about the iconography, because she has so many elements. This is called the Redeemer. So we can see God here and building creation, and how this is the divine Trinity. And the soul is the breath of the life spirit. Is the excellent sensitivity and permeates the body. So whatever we allow our soul to be, it will allow us to grow in a deeper connection. This is another iconography, and we can see this is St. Hildegard, and this is the Trinity coming here. And we can see the battle between the virtues and the vices. Okay? And the soul is the body as the sap for the tree. Okay? And the soul provides the inner solidity and strength of the body. In my experience working in the ER for 5 years when I was back home in Colombia, I only have 15 minutes to talk with a person. But I can tell that person was not sick because of the sake of being sick. They have something deep in their end. I remember a lady who had an abortion, and she wanted to be pregnant, and she kept on losing the babies. She already lost 7 of them. It was so sad, and I just have 10 minutes to talk to her. What was my prescription? Go on inner retreat that I personally did. So you can tell how important is the soul. But we are Catholic, we think about it. But there are many people that don't think about it. So as our call is to, as what Faisal was saying, to share this good news with everyone. Again with Pope Benedict, she saw the beauty of the cross as a way, our symptoms for her was a flag to show us that there was something wrong in our soul. Not to be worried about the symptoms, but to say, okay, what I'm doing wrong, that I can take care of that so that I will get back my Viriditas. So in that sense, we have hope. We are not putting the hope in a pill or in a doctor. We are going back to the roots, and then we can start understanding what is going on in us so that we can be more helpful, more healthy. So why this is important? Because this changed the whole concept. This guy, John Smuts, again, he was a military leader, and he was a philosopher. He was living during the age of Darwinism, where evolution was talking about, and reductionism. That is when we start to reduce everything to symptoms and try to categorize everything in blocks. And he saw that there was a lacking in that. So he was the first one to talk about holism. Holistic is not New Age. That is also a myth. It's not true. And this is what I'm going to explain to you. Science, he started to explain the stuff, but he knew from the beginning that you cannot separate everything into parts. So for him, life is not mechanical. We are not like robots that do only stuff. System was created to create something new. We are in constant evolution. Evolution is integrative. You are not evolving only one leg. You are evolving your whole system. And this was a military and a philosopher. He didn't have a clue about medicine, right? This is the guy. So he born in 1870 and he died in 1950. So he was not New Age. He was not talking about any kind of modern spirituality. He was just a guy who started thinking and saw a different concept. And he saw that reducing everything to parts was not the solution. But the first guy who actually talked about holism was this guy, Aristotle, right? And he is the founder of biology, founder of logics and metaphysics. And he viewed nature as an order with meaning. There is a purpose in our creation. Every animal has a purpose. And we have a higher purpose, a super, like, no supernatural, but a grace-giving purpose. And for him, the whole is more important than the sum of his parts. This is one of his most important quotes. So, substantial unity. Everything needs to be connected to be able to survive. And for him, he divided everything in form and matter. So for him, the matter was the body and the form was the soul. So the beginning is the substantial unity, not a collection of isolated parts. Okay? And now we can see that the root of holism came from the Greek, ancient medicine like Hippocrates. When I graduated, I never did Hippocrates' oath. That was kind of done by the 1830 or 40. So it's shocking how doctors now, they are not being implied to say that, because Hippocrates was saying that we are aimed to heal and to protect life always. There was no condition from it. And obviously we have our Christian tradition that say that we are whole with a purpose. And what I mentioned to you, I study what is called the psychosocial model. And the guy who created was Engel. He also overcome war, and he saw the destruction. And after the Second World War, remember that the Nazis, they did a lot of experiments with people. So they learned a lot of medicine, and they evolved a lot of pharmas, like medications. But he was saying there is nothing, there is like a piece that is missing. So what he saw is that we need to think about the biological factors, yes, but what about the psychological factors, and what about the social factors? So it's not the same a lady who is pregnant and have food in the table and is mentally stable, right? So the offspring will be very different. So this guy, back before the 12th century, he was talking about this. And his main idea is this biopsychosocial model doesn't replace biology, but integrates it. And now that is being kind of mentioned in what we call epigenetics. Epigenetics is saying, depending on the circumstances, there are some genes that will express and some genes that will doesn't. I'll give you an example, lactose intolerance. That is not a condition. We all human, we need milk, right? But there is a point that we don't need it anymore. So half of the population, they don't have the protein that metabolizes the milk, which is called casein. But that doesn't mean that you cannot tolerate milk. You just need to educate your body to tolerate it, okay? And one day I will explain everything about kefir because I love it. The history is great. But that is how you can see that we are evolving, okay? Now, I go to the Bible. So we fix our eyes not on what we can see, but what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. And that is what our main focus will be. So now you will know the importance of the soul. Again, going with the metaphor, you have your mind, your flowers, your thoughts. Whatever people are seeing, you think something, you act in that way, that is what people see about you. They might don't care about the vessel, The only thing is how you act to them. And then you have your soul. How often do you change the water in your vessel? How often do you go to reconciliation? How often do you go to adoration, right? And then the vessel. If you are fooling yourself with fast food every day, so imagine what will happen with this beautiful bouquet, okay? Now, the part that I love the most about Hildegard, the mind. She was talking about the virtues and the vices, and she also mentioned the 4 temperaments, but for her was 4 humors. But if we go back to Benedict, in her research for God, that kind of aim for the virtues is what fascinates Pope Benedict as well, because it was kind of a pathway for holiness. And she lived, even though she was in the medieval age, she lived up to, what age do you think she died? Any clue? 90. She was 90 years old, and she was healthy. She created another monastery, and she needed to cross a bridge, like by walking. By 88, she still walked and visited the other persons, and she was a missionary. And everyone was looking at her because she was 90 years old. Who lived that far in that age? Because she had that pathway of living. So once I start reading about the vices and the virtues, what is saying New Age? That you can heal yourself with the power of your mind. So I didn't want to confuse people. So what I did, I started looking into the catechism, and I found 8 steps to grow in virtue. So the first one is recognizing the sin and examining your conscience, and this is the numeral. I'm going a little bit fast, but if you want to buy the ebook, then you have everything like slowly. The second step is forming your own conscience, and that is the numeral. Third one, examination before reconciliation. So we already have this in our catechism. The root of the sin in the heart, and what is the consequences of that? Inner struggle with the evil, because it's a battle. It's actually a battle. And then the vices and the habits. You know that you need 45 days to change a vice. That is how much you need. But you need to be constant. You need to have those virtues. The conversion from human heart, and God's mercy is awaiting for you. But again, this is a grace that you need to ask to God. In the difference between New Age and us as Catholics is that we understand that we don't have the power to overcome this. It's by surrendering, by being humble, that we are able to achieve that. Okay, so in the ebook, you have all these 8 steps, one by one, with a reflection that you can start working in virtue. And this is the last numeral that I found. In the soul part of healing begins, this is from the catechism. The soul part of healing begins when a person dares to enter the deepness of their own heart, to recognize their wounds, their sins, and their vices, not to remain trapped in guilt, but open themselves to the mercy of God. During a time in my life, I was part of 40 Days for Life, the movement that you pray in front of an abortion facility. And what shocked me is how much guilt these ladies have. But I researched, and there is a place called Human Vitae, and they were marketing people, and they say, okay, what is the reason why women decide to abort their baby? And they found out that it was guilt. When you are able to change the heart of a woman from the guilt to the acceptance that they are responsible, they keep the baby. But when they are just full of guilt, they will not. So that is the trick. Like, we need to go back to what John Paul II was saying, mercy. We need to be merciful also with ourselves. Because yes, we have sinned. And what we need to do is say, God help me, I am a sinner. But don't despair. Don't allow the despair to come. And that is what he was saying. Mercy itself, as perfection of the infinitive God, is also infinitive. It's never ending. And the Father readiness to receive the prodigal children who return to his home. So if we are merciful to us, we will be merciful to other people. And that is something that we sometimes lack in the Catholic faith, or not the faith, like in the churches. We need to be more welcoming. We need to be more merciful. Again, John Paul II, humanity will not find peace until it turns with trust to the divine mercy. That is why it's so important, the divine mercy. And that is why we need to say, God, I need you. I surrender to you. Give me the grace to overcome these vices. And Pope Benedict was also saying that the obedience that Hildegard had, her persevering, her charity, that is something to inspire us. And she didn't keep her gifts for herself. Even though she didn't know how to read or how to write, that didn't stop her. She wanted to share this with everyone. And a quote from the psychologist that I mentioned, we have 35 spiritual weapons. If we learn about the vices and the virtues, we have that resources that we can start applying. So to give you an example, when my kids, they have something, a symptom, I start going a little bit deeper and trying to find what is the root of that. Everything in my research started with my oldest, who had an eczema. And I knew from the beginning that was not something to cure with corticoids. I didn't want to give her steroids. So I started going deeper and deeper and deeper. And he gets tired of me saying, like, you have this, and then you need to go to reconciliation. But in a sense, you are getting to go deeper and deeper and deeper. To give you an example, I used to have a very bad sinusitis. Once I start reading Hildegard, sinusitis means you need to control everything, and you need to have kind of everything in your view. And obviously, I was having that sense. So more I go deeper into the virtue, I don't have that symptoms anymore. It's not meaning that I heal myself. It's I open myself to the grace of God. Now, something that really passionate me about is the 4 temperaments. Even before I learned about Hildegard, I was researching about this. We homeschool, so at the beginning with my oldest, she loves to study, everything was smooth. My second one, she needs something different, right? So I was tired of why she's not doing the same. Then I found a book called the God-Given Temperament that, to Your Children. And I found out about the temperaments. And I saw that there are 4 different temperaments and how every person is different. And in the same way as modern psychology, this came back from the Greeks as well. And Hildegard mentioned it in a different sense. But the Greeks associated each temperament with one element, same as in Hildegard. But then Hildegard was also kind of comparing with humors, blood, phlegm, mucus, and bile. And this is one of her iconography, is the universal man, or the man in the cosmos. So maybe you're not able to see, but they're represented, the 4 elements, and how the men need to be in balance with that elements. So medieval medicine was based on the Greek concepts about the 4 humors. And Hildegard saw it like, as I mentioned, phlegm, blood, yellow bile, and black bile. I was shocked about black bile because I never studied that. And she was saying black bile is whatever makes us sick. And that makes our blood more thick. And she saw that a person who is very choleric have a lot of black bile. So then I started researching a little bit more of what she was saying. And in order to bring calm out of balance, in order bring calm, out of balance bring illness. But sometimes when you are so focused in temperaments, you kind of make yourself like in a square, which is not the idea. The idea is just for you to have the concept, but remember, and this is something that I wrote in purpose, your own unique masterpiece will unfold beautifully in the light of our Creator grace. I explained this to my kids, but I think I explained it too fast. And they were saying, I am this, I am that. And they were kind of closing themselves to one particular temperament. So I needed to fast, like going back and saying, like, you are more than that. This is just a trace, but you are way more than that. So now I'm going to explain the 4 temperaments, and you can have like an idea of who you are. First one, choleric. So for Hildegard, it was a dry humor, and it was related with the fire for the Greeks. And it's a person that is a leader, is decisive, is disciplined, but sometimes like The natural virtue is fortitude. Then the vice to overcome is anger, pride, and recurring emotional stability. They need to cultivate humility and patience. This is me. I have that. So I have that type of temperament. Then the sanguine, water, frothy humor, water element. They're easygoing. So they are very enthusiastic, very happy people. They are very social. Their natural virtue is joy. Who is not happy at the sea? Like everyone is happy at the beach. Vice to overcome, superficiality. They can have really a lot of friends, but very superficial friends. And they lack of perseverance. They start a lot of projects, but they don't finish it. So they need to cultivate perseverance. The phlegmatic, earth, mild-humored. They are diplomatic, they are calm, they are natural peacemakers. They don't want conflict. They prefer to avoid it. And they're a little bit timid, but they have piety. They have a lot of piety. And their natural virtue is patience. And the vice to overcome the sloth or conflict avoidance. They need to cultivate the courage to act and take the initiative. And the melancholic, profound, idealistic, perfectionistic, but they are very clever. So the natural virtue is prudence. They overthink, so they don't say something kind of fast. The vice to overcome sadness, and they need to cultivate hope and joyful acceptance. I made a mistake. This is the piety one. And the phlegmatic is the easygoing, the perfect children. That is what the books say. Like, you keep on having children until you have a phlegmatic. So once I was doing something in homeschool, I found a test of temperaments for the kids to associate it with an animal. So this is part of the ebook. So what I did is I have a test of temperaments for kids and for adults, and then how to do the 8 steps to work in virtue. So choleric, obviously, the lion. Sometimes when a person talks to me and say, you are like a lion in a cage. Yes, I am. The melancholic is the beaver, always working, always working. The sanguine is the otter, always happy, those beautiful creatures that are so joyful. And the phlegmatic is the golden retriever, like the perfect dog that you will ever want. Now, going to the body, and I'm going to go a little bit faster because of the time, but she healed with so many remedies. She have more than 2,000 remedies. So what I did, I will explain. Kind of the first thing that you need to know is the 6 golden rules of life. And then I will go a little bit deep into specific remedies. So she was saying, first, choose green, choose Viriditas. Always choose nature. Always try to go and connect with the creation. Let food be your medicine. Let's be honest. Sometimes we don't even care about what we eat, but it's so important. It's our first medicine. And sleep is the best remedy. If you are sick, the best thing you can do is have a nap. Rest. But now with our kind of life, we forget about sleeping. Balance between work and rest. This is so hard. I found myself with all what we are doing, sometimes I find myself sleeping late and I'm thinking like, I am not applying the rules. But it's hard to find a balance. Ora and labora, that is what she was saying, because she was Benedict. Purification and cleansing. It's amazing how she knows how sauna, some herbs will clean yourself and detox yourself. And cultivate inner straight, like the virtues that we already mentioned. Again, going back to Viriditas. Now, choose green, choose Viriditas. I am studying nutrition, and one of the most important things is a variety in your food. Sometimes we're very repetitive, so we might be eating the same over and over in each week without changing. More diverse is your food, and more you introduce new things, more healthy your microbiota will be. So she knew. Now, a spelt. There are different grains, wheat, rye, barley, spelt, oats. And for her, a spelt was the most important one. And a spelt is the unique grain that industry were not able to make it grow faster, so they keep it in a side. And for me, it's the divine providence. It was kind of God protecting that spelt, that grain for us. So a spelt is Asian, and it has the two forms of fiber that we need, soluble and insoluble. I know some people might know about this, but when you're eating grains, it's not for you. It's for your microbiota. It's for the little things that you have inside. So it's kind of symbiosis. Symbiosis is that you have two organisms working together for the same goal. We are full of bugs, not bugs, like good bacteria, and sometimes bad bacteria. But you need to feed that guys too. That is why you need the fiber. And 100 grams of spelt have 50% of protein, 11% of fiber, and it has 3% of zinc, which is amazing. And her, she say, is the best grains. It makes people cheerful, gives them right mind. That is what she said. What if your morning bowl, the one that you have, will be your lasting secret? This is what she recommends. So spelt grains make a Habermus. What means a Habermus? Aber refers to grain, mus means to a cooked dish. And again, 50% of proteins, 11% of fiber. And how you can take all the zinc, because the problem is there are food that have zinc, but maybe you don't cook it correctly, you don't get the properties. And she knew it, you just soak it in the night. And in that way, you will take out what is not good from the grain, and then you will have the benefits. And this is what I found. Like consuming a spelt in the form of sourdough bread is ideal. The fermentation, soaking the grain before. So in conclusion, she knew before us. And then the joy cookies. This is amazing. She has a spelt cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, almonds, and she say it makes people happy. There is human evidence how using this make you happy. If you use cinnamon, it will increase B endorphins, which is the hormones that make you feel happy, actually. Then you have nutmeg that increase serotonin and dopamine. So for those that you know, those are the hormones that make us happy. When you have depression, the doctors will give you medication that will increase serotonin. Cloves reduce oxidative stress, the damage of the cells, and reduce inflammation. Almonds, they reduce cortisol. Again, oxidative stress markers. It will say to the cells which cells are not good for the body to take them out. So that is what almonds will do. And the spelt has the whole grain fiber. And when you are eating that, you have increase of short-chain fatty acids. We need fat, but in the short way. When we have the large fatty acid, that is when we have overweight. So everything that she say makes sense. And there is no studies of St. Hildegard cookies, of course, but we can say that the combination of these ingredients, actually there is a pathway of feeling better, feeling more happy. There is a doctor in Spain who's curing people with cancer and autism using Hildegard medicine. And she say, Mafe, you don't know how many cookies I sell every day because all the moms are in love with these cookies. Kids with ADHD, give them the cookies. So Hildegard was saying, warm aromatic, so this is from a medical trial. Warm aromatic spices, cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, trigger autonomic nervous system activation, which will create elevation in the mood, will make you happy. Another study, a randomized controlled trial. This is the most important one because you have a lot of people and then you are giving some nothing and then you are giving some the actual product and you see what happened. It reduced anxiety and depression. It improved your gut microbiota composition because of the fiber and increased serotonin just with this combination. So our kids saw us like working in this business for the past 2 months. And they decided to have their own mini brand. So they make the cookies and they are available for there to sell. And they are learning from the parents to start a business. So whatever you buy in cookies is for them. Now, she also mentioned about alkaline diet. I don't know if you have mentioned, but now they are saying you need to eat alkaline aliments. And many of the foods she favored are gentle, warming, and they help you. So I have a table of what she was saying. So a Spelt, what she say, it nourishes the blood and gives joyful spirit. And modern science is saying how these actually help us to have a better microbiota. Fennel, she say is one of the best things that you can have. Fennel helps for mood, helps for digestion. If you are breastfeeding, it helps you to produce more milk. And for her, she say, makes a person cheerful, provides a good sweat and a good complexion. And modern science, it has oils and dietary fiber that support microbiota and may help calm intestinal smooth muscle. So I can keep on going, right? For example, thyme. She was saying always add thyme to your meals. Good and useful for anyone who has a fragile health. Modern science shows that thyme has antimicrobial compound that help balance the gut microbiota, and it has like a benefit to have more mucus and more lining in your stomach. But this is back from the 12th century. She's so impressive. Like, I fall in love with her because whatever she says is so true. And I'm going to go in this in more deep in the next slide. This is called Galangal. It's a very weird root, similar to turmeric, similar to ginger. But what for her, Galangal was good. It was really hot. It's really spicy. But for her, it was good for the heart. So these are the benefits. Improve the intestinal transit. Antimicrobial is like an antibiotic, a natural antibiotic. It has cardiovascular effects, and it helps with vascular aging and protection. And guess what? I found medical information saying Galangal, but Galangal alpina, it has cardioprotective effect. And this is a very fancy way of saying that increase the contraction of the heart. There are testimonies that people that have a heart attack, if they take 1 capsule of Galangal, they get better. So we can see how advanced she was in medicine. Again, another review, they were saying, or it's the same, but they were saying how it reduced the damage. If there is heart attack and you take 1 capsule of this, you will have less damage in your heart. So you can see how impressive she was. And this is what she said. In bad humors, when the person is flawed with bad humors, then they should have Galangal, and it will kind of ease the melancholy. My father had a massive heart attack a few years ago. My father is really kind of going, really bad humor and kind of controlling everything. And that is the vice. When you want to control everything, when you have like a lot of anger, your heart suffers. The people, like the doctor couldn't explain how my father had the 4 arteries full block because he don't smoke. The only thing he does is drink a lot of caffeine. Like he don't need coffee anyhow. But this is what she's saying. So now I'm giving Galangal to my father to protect his heart. The next one, Pyrethrum, is like a chamomile. It came from the India, and it has a digestive properties. Again, antimicrobial and cardiovascular. And there are research that had demonstrated how Pyrethrum helps in stimulate salivation and digestive secretions. So what happens is when you are eating too fast, you are not allowing your stomach to slowly empty. So the food goes really fast to your intestine, and that is why you have acid reflux, or you can have indigestion. So Pyrethrum is going to slow the velocity how your stomach is empty, and that will allow for a better absorption in the stomach. So people that have Helicobacter pylori, they suffer a lot because they cannot cure it easily. And one of the factors is first they eat too fast and their stomach empty too fast. So this could help. And it restores, like for her, she was saying, it restores strength to an ill person whose body is almost completely failing. So what she says, you need to add pellitra to your food. We have been doing that, like adding a little bit of pellitra every time we cook, and everyone is feeling better. And for the eczema, for my daughter's skin, we put pellitra in the skin, and because it has an antimicrobial properties, it's getting better. So she has many information, and she was saying that there are 4 things that you're supposed not to eat. She didn't like people eating raw apples. She preferred to have it cooked. That is why on the Vermouth, it's better to have it cooked. Raw garlic, what she says, if you put the garlic and cook it for long time, you lose the properties. So back home in Colombia, the old ladies used to put the garlic at the end. So they kind of knew. And pork, we personally found that every time we eat pork, the next day or a few days we had a bad cold altogether. I don't think it's a problem itself how the pork it is, but how it's being fed. And also she was saying that she didn't like the no ruminants animals. So pork is a non-ruminant element, but for example, she recommends chicken. But I don't know, this is for me. If you read Exodus, they were saying that we don't supposed to eat pork. I know I'm going kind of very literal, but in my opinion and for our family, we stop eating pork because we find ourselves getting sick after. You can check if you want. Strawberries, peaches, and prunes. What happened with these fruits is that it looks good in the outside, but it can be damaged in the inside. I don't know if it ever happened that you cut up a peach and it's moldy, kind of close to the seed, but outside it looks good. So for her, those 3 were very kind of with a lot of humidity, and that is where parasites came, and you know all the kind of relationship between parasites and chronic diseases. So that is why she didn't recommend it. And strawberries are like sponges. So if there are pesticides in the environment, it can take it. I know this is a lot to kind of change, but there is evidence that support how if you are eating this type of fruits, you have more allergens. So if you are eating it and you don't feel any issue, it's okay. But one of the things that we cut off is strawberries, because our daughter was eating a lot of strawberries when the eczema started coming. So you might need to consider. Or if you are growing your strawberries, I think it will be different. But the problem is strawberries get damaged really quickly. So they spray a lot of the things when you buy it in the supermarkets. So it's something for you to consider. And she also has 4 universal remedies depending on the season of the year. It's kind of the base for her. So the Wormwood wine, Pear, Electuary, Lentil cure, and Scolopendra. The first one is an acid wine. It's really sour, but actually you need a little bit of sour so that you have a better digestion. And this one she recommended May to October. We have been taking it. It had been a huge help for us. And I found, like this is what she said, Wormwood is the master of all stage of exhaustion. So when you are feeling really fatigued with a lot of stress, you start drinking Wormwood wine and then you feel better. And in the science, what they say help with digestion because it kind of increase acids in the stomach. And this is shocking. When you have heartburn, people think that you have too much acid. So they put an antacid, but it's actually the opposite. What is happening is you have so much low acid that your intestines are not ready to get the food, but your stomach is pushing the food, so that is why the acid goes up. But if you were having a normal acid level, that will not happen. So what is going on is people take antacid, take medication for that, it's kind of a perpetual cycle. So modern medicine now know that wormwood will help because it's acid and we need acid. So many nutritionists now say drink lemon juice in the morning with warm water. Because why? It gives you electrolytes but also help in digestion. So it's a lot of things that we assume that are wrong. My recommendation will be eat slow, never eat in front of a screen, be mindful when you're eating, remember your Viriditas are getting in your mouth, And if you really have digestion issues, you can let me know. But wormwood wine is one of the things that can help you. These are all the benefits. Also reduce like the resistance, it strengthens the resistance to infections. The Pear Electuary, we try it. It's like a compote with a lot of ingredients, and it's an anti-parasite. And she recommended during winter. So it's kind of preparing you for the winter. And there is a source, or there is a medical evidence that pears contain the insoluble and soluble fibers that will support digestion and prevents constipation. But actually her purpose for the Pear Electuary was to cleanse the intestine. And these are the benefits. It supports the intestinal recovery. It kind of boosts back the good bacteria in your gut. And it supports a healthy gut lining. And there are many evidence now about the relationship between parasites and chronic diseases, even like cancer. I don't know if you know, but there is a Canadian doctor called Makis. He was curing people with 2 antiparasites, but obviously now he's in Florida. You know the reason. Lentil cures. This is amazing for anyone that have autoimmune diseases or cancer. Because what it will do, it will boost their immune system. And it's with lentils that you make in water, are very particular lentils. And it reduces the chronic inflammation. The polyphenols in lentils stop cancer cell growth. This is from Science Direct PubMed. I forget to put the date, but imagine how advanced she was in everything what she was saying. So it supports the immune system, stimulates the body natural defense, and it was kind of recovery a person. So Hildegard doctors will use it for someone that had been in chemotherapy or radiotherapy or any kind of autoimmune disease. And the last one, the ones that I like the most, is a fern. And she recommended during the spring. And this fern, what we'll do is we'll regulate all the hormones. So for someone like a woman that is struggling with thyroid issues or perimenopause, it will help. Prostate issues in men will help. And these are the benefits. And also it detox the liver. You know that our liver is kind of the guy that clear everything out. So this is going to help in that. And so I know I'm going too fast, but just to give you an idea, what are the things that you might need to start with? A Spelt, of course, if you want to give it a try to the Spelt cookies. Cooking with palitre, like adding a little bit of the powder to your cooking, that will be a huge help. Galangal is also really good if you have any kind of cardiac disease or if you are dealing with any kind of autoimmune disease. And if you have any of particularities, we are offering consultations so that we can say to you, okay, this is what you need. And if you are not able to prepare, we can prepare the wines for you as well. And finally, this is the most kind of vast topic for her. She was healing with the stones. My mom is a physics. She's a teacher of physics back home in Colombia. So when I started reading about the stones, I told my husband, no, I'm going to avoid that because it's kind of, for me, it doesn't have science a lot like around it. But my mom started looking into it, and thermodynamics means that like in thermodynamics, there are 2 laws. One is saying that all energy is being transformed. There is not being destroyed. And the second one is everything is kind of going to the chaos, the disorder. So what is happening is the stones could be hot or could be cold or hot. And depending on that, there is a reaction in the body. But my purpose is not to say the stone will heal you, because that sounds like New Age. It's more like it's a helper. It's going to help you in a way in case that you have something in particular. So, for example, Hildegard was saying, or the body is in connection with the environment. And the heat is a divine change. Whenever there is pressure going to higher to low pressure. Same with heat, higher to low. And that kind of explains the phenomenon of the exchange. So we with the injury of my husband, we had been using the red jasper. It's a very cold stone. When you touch it, it's cold. Once we place it where he had the injury, the stone became really hot. So it's kind of absorbing the inflammation that is in that particular location. But again, it's not the stone, it's just a helper. And what she was saying is jasper strains the heart and brings a person back to the proper blood flow. So she also recommends when someone has a heart issue, she recommends to put a jasper close to the heart. And what I found fascinating is she was talking about proper blood flow. When you have inflammation, you have a lot of blood there. And we can see, you see this recovering really well. It had been 2 months and he's not wearing the boot anymore. We are using different things, but also is jasper what we are using. Ones that I like a lot is chalcedonia. What she was saying, using it close to your wrist and you will have improved the circulation. It helps you when you are in anger, so imagine sometimes I use it. And it also helps in menopause. And this is what she was saying, like chalcedonia cools the heart in a woman when her nature changes and bring her back into harmony. I didn't know, but even, for example, there are ladies in Europe that always have a jasper when they are going to have a delivery. It helps with a normal, like a better, easy delivery. My mom have arthritis, so when we went to visit my partner in the States, and she had like a finger that is really painful, so Hildegard had a cream with wormwood, and then there is a stone that is green called chrysoprasia, and my mother brought it, and she feel better. Like, not right as arthrosis is going to go, but the pain was lower. So there is science around these stones, more to learn, it's a lot to digest, but especially remember, it's not the stone healing you, it's a helper. So because it's a lot, I'm thinking to doing like a workshops about this topic as well. And just kind of the last slide. How do you get, like, what is important for you about this meeting? You get the education. We are being transparent with you. We are offering what we know, and we are being honest. We are not going to say this is going to cure all your issues. No. Obviously, you need to work in your mind. You need to work in your soul. And I will say not the less important, but it's like a balance. And obviously, the remedies will help. But more you go back to your virtues, more you go back to your soul, you will feel better. And that is something that we all feel. St. Hildegard was saying reconciliation is the resuscitation of the soul. That is the best sacrament that we could have, being able to receive the mercy of God. The products, as I am following this lady that had been studying St. Hildegard for so long, she's teaching me how to use the remedies according to the original recipe. And obviously, it doesn't say that because it's a plant remedy, you can use it out of the blue and you can use it without seeing like the whole picture. That is why it's better if you see, like if you want to have like more into your specific situation, I can guide you and say what you actually need. And if you are taking some medications, if it's a good idea of taking it or not. And finally, Pope Benedict was saying that he saw the Holy Spirit working in her. It's amazing how she knew all of this when there was no microscope, when there was no science, when there was no anything kind of to back up what she was saying. But she was so right about different things. So he saw a huge value on what she was offering. And because she followed all the theology of the church, that is why he declared her doctor of the church. So this is a presentation. I hope you like it. And because it's a lot, I kind of summed this in an ebook, and it has all these like sections with her story, her writings, the foundation of the medicine, the misuse of her, and practical tools. I have 3 tests that you can use. One is for your body, mind, and soul. You can kind of assess where you are. A daily practice that you can apply every day, and the temperament test for your children and for yourself.